Hilchos Pesulei Hamukdashin Perek Shvi'i, the laws of the disqualified sacrifices, chapter 7. This is like a new section in these laws. First 6 chapters was dealing with animals, how to mess up, or all the different ways that an animal sacrifice can get messed up. Today, tomorrow, the next day, and the next day, 4 chapters, we're going to be dealing with birds. They're also a type of sacrifice, and all the different things that can go wrong with bird sacrifices. So, the first thing to know about bird sacrifices is that they are killed in a different way than an animal is killed. When it comes to sacrifices, an animal is killed through shchita. Shchita means that you cut the animal's throat in the front of the neck. That's the way we do it even for today, for eating kosher. For a bird, however, the process for offering it sacrificially is called melika. It's a different procedure. It's actually where you go in from the back of the bird's neck, not from the front. So that's first of all. In melika itself, there's a difference between an oila and a chatas, a sin offering and a burnt offering. The bird sin offerings had to be performed on the bottom half of the altar, and the bird burnt offerings had to be performed on the top. Besides the fact that they had to be performed at the top and the bottom, there was a little bit of a different procedure how you squeeze the blood from the bird that was a burnt offering versus a sin offering. So all of these different things can go wrong. And that's going to be the discussion in today's chapter. Halacha Aleph. Kala psulin la'avoda shemolku. If any person who was disqualified for service in the temple did melika, melikasan psula, their melika is disqualified. You see, melika is a non-kosher way of killing a bird until you're a Kohen doing it right. If you're a Kohen doing it right, now it becomes a holy service. But if you're disqualified for service, melika is disqualified. Va'afal pisha yisrael, if Pesulei says that Rambam, even though in this case the bird is disqualified, when it comes to the laws of ritual impurity, it's not considered like any other dead kosher bird. Usually a dead kosher bird has very unique laws about transmitting ritual impurity, one of them being that it only makes you impure the moment you swallow it. The Beis Habliya, it's called, in the place of the swallowing. It's a special unique law that applies only to dead kosher birds. But this one, which you were supposed to, or you were trying to bring as a sacrifice, but somebody messed up the malika because they weren't kosher for service, it doesn't become like a dead kosher bird. V'cheini malak balayla, same thing if you did the malika service, even if you did it properly and you were a good Kohen, but you did it by night. Aisha shachat chulin bifnim v'kadashim b'chutz, or you slaughtered, not malika, you did a proper shchita, but it was not a sacrifice, it was a regular bird inside the temple, or a sacrificial bird outside the temple. Einam kanavela, in all these cases, though they are now dead kosher birds, they aren't considered a regular dead kosher bird in avela with regards to tuma. Halacha beis malak toirim shalohi giazmanon ubneyayna she'avar zmanon. So we remember that there are only 2 types of birds that are kosher for offering: a pigeon and a turtle dove. Toiru ben yoina. Now, since the Torah calls one of them toir, regular pigeon, another one ben yona, a young dove, that tells us that the doves can only be brought up to a certain point, and the pigeons can only be brought as a sacrifice after they reach a certain point in their maturity. And the way to know is, as we saw, when there are feathers around their neck, when they get yellow, that's too old for a dove and too young for a pigeon. So what happens, says the Rambam, if you did malika to a pigeon that was too young, or to a turtle dove that was too old? So they're not even fit to be brought as a sacrifice, and you're doing malika on them. Or a bird got a blemish, which disqualifies it. V'sheyavesh gapa, its wing got dried out, it's no longer able to fly. V'shenismes eino, or its eye was blinded. V'shenikta araglo, or its leg was cut off. Most blemishes don't apply to birds, but these ones where they're actually missing an integral part of their body does make them problems. So in this case, harezu nevelo l'chol davar. Since the birds never became fit for a sacrifice to begin with, so when you kill them in this way, you make them like a regular dead kosher bird, even with regards to impurity. Zeh haklal, this is the guiding rule. Kol shahaya psula b'kodesh. If the disqualifying factor happened to the bird after it was already holy, psula ve'ena nevela. It's only disqualified, not a nevela with regards to impurity. Lo haisa psula b'kodesh. But if the disqualifying factor didn't happen in the holiness, it was just blemished. It was, to begin with, it was messed up. Harezu nevela l'chol davar. When you kill it, in whatever way you kill it, it becomes like a regular dead kosher bird with regards to impurity. Gimel lefichach, therefore, If somebody does malika to a bird, thinking it's a sacrifice, he's having all the right intentions, and then he checks the bird inside and it's treif. There's a mortal wound. Oisha malak besakin, or he did malika with a knife. Malika has to be with a thumbnail. He went in from the back of the neck, but he did it with a knife. Oisha malak chulin bifnim b'kadashim b'chutz, or he did malika to a regular bird inside the temple, or a holy bird outside the temple. Harizun nevela l'chol davar. In these scenarios, it's a complete nevela. It's a complete dead kosher bird. She'ena malika materes umitaheres elo davar shu kosher lemizbeach. Funny enough, malika only works to permit or to purify something which is kosher for the mizbeach. Since when you did malika and you discovered it to be a treifa, what does that mean? That means retroactively it was never kosher for the mizbeach. So the malika which you did doesn't count. It's just a dead bird. Halacha daled, by contrast, aval hanirba, but a bird that was involved in relations with a human being. The Hamukdashin, or a bird that was set aside to be served as idol worship. The Hanevad, or it was actually served as an idol. The Ha'esnan, and a bird that was used as payment for a prostitute. The Hamukdashin, or it was used in exchange of a dog. The Hatumtum, the Ha'andreginais, and a bird whose genitalia area is covered, or it's a hermaphrodite. It has both. Shanimluku, if any of these had malika performed on them, Hare elu nevela l'chol davar, they are considered a fully dead kosher bird, even with regards to impurity. Umitamin begadim bebeis habliya, they will cause a person's garments to become impure if the meat is in the swallowing area of the person. She'eina kedusha chala alein, because in all these cases they can never become holy. A bird that was involved with bestiality or harlotry is disqualified. Which means that their disqualifying factor didn't happen to them while they were in a holy state. So these first four halachot were all disqualifications that could happen in the act of malika, in the act of slaughtering the bird sacrifice. Now there's another step, the process or the procedure that you do. What do you do with the sacrifice? Says the Rambam, we already explained in the laws about the procedures of the different sacrifices, that a sin offering that was a bird needs to be performed on the bottom half of the mizbeach. See this red line? There was a red line going around the mizbeach. That was the dividing line. It was halfway of the height, and it would tell you that whatever needed to be brought under was brought under that line. Above was above that line. So a chatas bird needs to be performed on the bottom half of the mizbeach. An oila bird needs to be performed on the top half of the mizbeach. By the way, just a lesson from this. The purpose of a sin offering versus a burnt offering, it says in the Gemara, a sin offering is achieving atonement, basic forgiveness. You make a mistake against somebody, you want to ask for forgiveness. An oila is a gift that follows up. You know, when you mess up with somebody, so first you ask for forgiveness, and then you can give a little gift as a token of appreciation for the forgiveness. So the Rebbe once said, that's why the chatas is done on bottom and the oila on top, because a person has to understand that even if he brings a sin offering, don't think it's all over. You're still on bottom. You're still on the bottom of the relationship. Only once you bring the gift, once you bring the oila, then you go up. Then you're back up to where you were before. But that's the core law, how it has to be done. Chatas on the bottom, oila on the top. By the way, with animals, it's the opposite. Chatas animal is done on top, oila animal is done on bottom, and we have to think how that lesson applies there. But with birds, it's chatas on bottom, oila on top. Therefore, says the Rambam, chatas ha'oif she'asa l'mayla, a bird sin offering, which you performed on the top half of the altar, psula, it's disqualified. Bein she'asa hazayasa k'masei chatas, bein she'asa k'masei oila. Doesn't matter what else you did. Even if the sprinkling of the blood, even if you did it in the method that a sin offering is usually offered, and certainly if you did it in the method that a burnt offering is usually offered, it's all disqualified. Bein she'asa l'shem oila, bein she'asa l'shem chatas, doesn't matter what you had in mind. Whether you did it with the intention of a burnt offering or the intention of a sin offering. The bottom line, you basically have like this. You have the malika, that's the actual sacrifice, the slaughtering of the bird, and that, if it's a sin offering, has to be done on bottom, burnt offering has to be done on top. Then you also have the procedure of the offering. For example, when it comes to a chatas, bird, the Torah says you have to slaughter it, but you cannot sever the head from the body. When it comes to a burnt offering, you have to sever the head from the body. A. Another difference is when it comes to the burnt offering, you're supposed to squeeze the blood out onto the altar. You take the head and you squeeze it onto the altar. When it comes to a sin offering, you just sprinkle the blood on the altar. So there's different ways to do the haza'ah. Plus, you have to have the proper intention. You have to be thinking, I'm doing a burnt offering, I'm doing a sin offering. So the Rambam says, if the chatas bird offering was done, in other words, was presented on the top half of the altar, it doesn't matter what you did. Even if you sprinkled it in the way that a sin offering is usually sprinkled. Even if you had intention that I'm doing it for a sin offering, but you did it on top. So it's a problem. The same thing is if you take a bird burnt offering and you perform it on the bottom half. Even if you did the slaughtering in like 2 seconds and you were partly on top, partly on bottom, psula, it's disqualified. And again, bein shemalaka kimalikas oila, bein sha'asa kemasei chatas, doesn't matter how you performed it. You performed it like an oila, you severed the head from the body, you did it like the actions of a sin offering, you didn't sever the head from the body, bein sha'asa l'shem chatas, bein sha'asa l'shem oila, whether you did it with the intention of a sin offering or the intention of a burnt offering, doesn't make a difference. You made the burnt offering on bottom, that's bad. Halacha zayin, chatas ha'oif, shemlaka lemata. Consider this case. You're doing it in the right place. See, the makom, makom is the place. The place is, this is the bottom half of the mizbech, this is the top half. This is a chatas bird. You did the malika in the proper place. You did it on the bottom of the mizbech. However, you did it ki malikas oila. You did it like a burnt offering would be done. So you're in the right place, but you didn't do it the right way. You severed the head from the body. L'shem chatas. Even if you did it with the intention of a sin offering. So you got the right place, right intention, wrong action. Oy, kimase chatas, l'shem oila. Or you're in the right place, you did it the right way, that means you didn't sever the head from the body, but you had the wrong intention. You're thinking it's for a burnt offering. And certainly, oy kimase oila, l'shem oila, you're on the bottom, in the right place, but you're doing it in the wrong way for the wrong intention, psula, that's all disqualified. Halacha ches, same thing the opposite. V'chein oila sa'if. Here now the bird says oila in it. Oila is supposed to be performed on the top. You did that. Sha'asa l'mayla. You did the malika on the top half of the mizbeach, but you did it kemasei chatas, like the way that a sin offering is done, not severing the head from the rest of the body. L'shem oila, even if you had intention for the oila. Oy, kemasei chatas, l'shem chatas. Or you did both bad, actions of a chatas with the intention of a chatas, psula is disqualified. However, there's one difference. Kemasei oila l'shem chatas. If you did it on top, in the way that the oila is done, severing the head from the rest of the body, but you had the intention for a sin offering, ksheira. Fascinatingly, this is kosher, ubilvad shalei also labayla l'shem chayva, with the provision that it doesn't count for the owners. So the owners have to bring a new sacrifice, but the bird itself doesn't have to be thrown out.
What's the purpose?
It doesn't have to be burnt. The point is that it's a kosher sacrifice. You can keep doing the sacrificial procedure to it. For the person, there's no difference. You're right. He has to bring a new sacrifice anyways. Halacha tes, says the Rambam. Kol elu ha'oifes shenifsalu. All of these disqualified birds that became disqualified mipnei mekay masiyasa and mipnei shinui maaseya and shinui shmam. The last few halachot, because of the place that they were done, the difference in their actions or the changing of their intentions. Einan kenivlas ha'oif l'tuma. In the same way, they are not considered to be like a dead kosher bird with regards to impurity. Again, for the same reason, because their disqualifying factor happened while they were holy. And the same thing applies in general to a bird burnt offering or sin offering. If it becomes pigul because of other wrong intentions, or it becomes ritually impure, or it becomes left over past its time frame, does not contract or transmit ritual impurity while it's in the swallowing area, like the dead carcass of a kosher bird. For the same reason, they all become disqualified in the holy. Whenever you have a scenario of a chatas bird being brought because of a question mark, because of a doubt, and we'll soon see what that is, nases k'mitzvah. So the law is that you have to perform the procedure for the chatas exactly as the mitzvah is. But the kohanim cannot eat it. Hamukdashin, it has to be burnt like any disqualified sacrifice. How do you have a chatas bird being brought for a doubt? If a woman was in doubt whether she had an irregular blood flow, or she was in doubt whether she gave birth, right? There was a miscarriage of a fetus, so you don't know if it's an actual fetus, as we had in the laws of the woman's impurity in the beginning of the Rambam's 5th book, or anything like it. So since such women have to bring a sin offering if they were actually impure and she doesn't know, So she's bringing a chatas out of a doubt. You never have an animal sin offering out of doubt. Because if you're in doubt whether you sinned or not, there's a sacrifice for that. Yavi asham talui. You bring the doubtful guilt offering, as will be explained in the laws of inadvertent sins. A woman brings a bird sin offering out of a doubt, and then in the process she finds out that yes, she was actually definitely obligated in the sin offering. So it depends when she found out. If it was before even Malika was done, she's in the temple holding the bird, and they go, hey, you know what? You were actually impure. So beautiful. Perform the chatas bird exactly as if it was a definite chatas bird and eat it. The kohanim can eat it. But if it was only after Malika was done to it, that's when she found out that it was a definite sin. The kohen should finish the procedure, sprinkle the blood, squeezing it out, but it should be burnt. So nobody should think that that you have a doubtful sin offering bird is being eaten. No one's going to know, or not everyone's going to realize that she found out in the middle. They'll think, everyone knows, they saw in the beginning, she brought it for a doubt. All of a sudden you're eating it, doesn't look too good. What if she found out, not that she was definitely obligated, but that she was definitely not obligated? Lady, you were definitely not impure. And the animal or the bird has already been nimlak, already had malika done to it. It's simply buried. We don't want to have anything benefit from it. You don't even continue the service because it's no longer a sacrifice, it's no longer needed. And you bury it as you do in many other such cases where it's discovered that a sacrifice is no longer needed.